Hey, it's Rachel Safdie.
And Rachel Escondri.
And welcome to the Beyond the Uniform podcast on Audioversity, where we tell you the untold stories of the heroes of Israel.
Today, we have a very special guest with an extraordinary story.
She was born and raised in Israel, served in the army in her youth, and then she moved to Geneva to get a degree in international relations until she moved to Brazil for 20 years.
After her 20 years of living in Brazil, she moved back to Israel, completed a master's degree at Reichman University, and then moved to work as the head manager of the Derech Eretz political party.
Since the war began, she has devoted completely, fully her time to be a volunteer at the Forum of the Hostage Families.
She also happens to be Rachel's mother. So a very warm welcome to our special guest, Meirav. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Raquel, my daughter. I'm very, very honored to be invited by you girls. Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about how it was, growing up in Israel?
Oh, well, growing up in Israel, I think it's the best thing ever because you are born into such a special country that if I could... or if I had the chance to choose again, I would have loved to be born Israeli. Because you are born into a mission. You have a mission. You are a part of a huge family. Not only the daughter of your parents, but one of the daughters of your people, the Jewish people. And I tell you, I felt it very strong. How? Because I was a granddaughter of survivors of the Holocaust, and my mother was a daughter of survivors of the Holocaust, which means in itself a lot. And my father was wounded in 1956 in Kalkilia. He was a Nachal Mutznach, a parachute. So you are born an Israeli, and this implies a lot. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I can sit and tell all the stories, but I think the question is how is it to be born an Israeli? Wow, it's huge.
You mentioned, the army and all these things. Israel is and has always been a war-torn country. How was growing up in that environment? Do you remember, running to the shelter? As people, both Rachel and I, she's from the U.S., I'm from Brazil, so we didn't grow up in this environment where it's obvious that there is war,
Yes, so this is in our vein. Was and is still in our veins. I mean, war, it's a permanent state. It's not something that happened suddenly, or it's not something rare. War is constant. You live under a permanent existential threat. I remember absolutely running to the shelter for the Yom Kippur War. I was born in 1968, July 1968. We lived in Ramat Aviv. Today it's Chaim Levanon Street. At the time it was University Street, the first floor. I remember literally on 73, I was 5 years old, going down the stairs to the shelter. I remember sitting in the shelter in the building. I remember it was a long bench in the shelter. It's not safe room as we have today, mamad. No, at that time, all the buildings had only shelter which was beneath the ground.
One shelter for everyone.
Exactly. And all the neighbors in the building, all of them went down the stairs. I actually remember, Rachel, people walking down the stairs with all the excitement, with all the fear. I remember
the adrenaline,
the fear, the fear from the unknown. And I remember actually us with the neighbors sitting down beneath the ground. I remember adults trying to play with us. It was a long stay. And I still have my friend up until today, Gil, with whom I sat in the shelter. I'm still in contact with him, and we talk about this. We remember. He has the same age as I. So growing up in Israel, in a mentally war-oriented state of mind, I remember, for example, you didn't have trash, trash cans in the street. No. If you had a banana or apple or a bag of something you wanted to throw away, you didn't have a trash can because it was a place that somebody, a potential terrorist, could have put a bomb.
Wow.
And one cannot hide a bomb in a trash can. So the municipality did not make trash can available on the streets. Can you believe it?
It's insane to even think about how the smallest acts, like municipality, you walk around Tel Aviv, it's so ingrained in our society, in our people, that like prepare for the worst. This could happen. Like, let's think about our trash cans. The smallest thing, like you would never imagine that needs to be a concern.
I'll tell you even more. I remember when I was 6 or 7, I used to travel to my grandparents' house in Tel Aviv alone in the bus. So you would think that a 6 or 7-year-old child to go alone and ride on a bus, it's like something rare.
In Brazil, it's definitely not very acceptable.
In Miami, it doesn't happen.
So you see, for my mother, it was natural, only natural, to put me on a public bus and direct me, tell me, you're going to go down in Even Gvirol, Gan Yair. The bus number was 24, and go and see your grandparents.
Wow, I take bus 24.
You see?
It's still a line.
In that same place. It's the same line.
That's really funny.
So you see, this was easy. This was natural. However, the fear was what? Not from rape, not from robbery. What was the fear? From terror.
Bombs.
I had bombs. I had to watch and look in the streets that I'm walking, and there is no bomb or somebody that in the bus station. What was the fear? Look for a abandoned backpack. That was the fear. Do you understand our reality?
I mean, until today, sometimes when I see a backpack on the train, a lot of times, and I can't connect whose it is, I get nervous. I want to, I start asking, sorry, is this yours? Because it's something that's so real. Whereas in Brazil, that would never be a worry growing up, So that's very interesting. And you were in the army, the Israeli army, as every Israeli. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
This is amazing. I recommend to everybody to go and do the Israeli army, the IDF. It is so special that they put you in a place where they know that you'll have so much to contribute. You still don't understand what they figured out about yourself.
How did you get to this unit?
Exactly. And the army knows.
You were in an intelligence.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, even, I'm 56 today, so and I was like, it's so many years after, I can still not say what I did because this position and this function is still happening. So why should I say?
Of course.
But it was so rich, so amazing. And the the bottom line of all is that the army gives you so much responsibility. You actually built yourself during those 2 years. They ask from you so much, your position, your function, give so much on your shoulder, and you actually discover how capable you are, and now you produce, and you impact reality. You're a doer, a real doer since the age of 18. Amazing.
It's so amazing. First of all, it's amazing to hear you speak so highly about your experience, like even so long after. It's a beautiful thing to hear, and it's inspiring, I think, to a lot of people. But you also mentioned briefly before that you were in some kind of international relations, and then that's what you continued studying. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, well, international relations is, I don't know, I was always attracted. You know why? Because Israel is so unique, and I was curious about other cultures. I knew that since I was brought up in a very Zionist home and very patriot, but I knew always that there is a world outside, beyond, and I wanted to discover Why? Because first I was curious. How is it outside? How different are we here? Why are we different? What makes us different? So in order to understand what makes you different, you have to know the other side. So international relations for me was the outside world, outside the borders of Israel, and different from our mentality and our culture. I wanted to discover this. And then I wanted so much to make the bridge, to unlock the gap.
It's interesting because, you know, you lived 7 years in Geneva and then you lived 20 years in Brazil, and yet you still carry this pride, you know, such, you know, Zionistic values, and, you know, you're so patriotic towards Israel, even so that we see, you know, that what you're doing to the country, which we'll get into soon, for the past 15 months, to giving your life to, you know, to rise to the occasion and do something bigger than yourself. So how were you able to keep your Israeliness throughout your almost 30 years of living outside of Israel?
You know, your question is so deep. I don't know if I will be able to cover all the aspects. I want to tell you something. I didn't keep kosher up until the age of 20. I became kosher when I was in Geneva. What does this mean? It means that you are holding up to your identity when there is a slight threat that you're going to assimilate to other cultures. But this is not the only aspect of your question. Your question is much deeper than this. I will explain you. Up until few years ago, people made a huge separation between being Israeli and being Zionist, between being a Jew and being an Israeli. Today, especially after October 7th, it is easy for students in the IDC, for journalists in the BBC, you know, from people from Dallas in United States to understand there is a merge between anti-Jew, anti-Semitic, and anti-Israeli. Today, there is a synonym. People understand that the actual modern expression of anti-Semitism is being anti-Israeli. Me, I lived through that since ever. Mm-hmm. I identify myself first as a Jew or first as a Zionist. It was for me a conflict. What do I feel more? A Jew, an Israeli, or a Zionist? You understand? Today, being Jewish, being Israeli, and being Zionist, in the name of those who wants to destroy Israel, is synonym.
The same thing.
You understand? You understand? But then, that's why I'm telling you, to answer your question, Raquel, how did I keep this strong identity of being Israeli? Farther you are, closer you are to yourself.
Wow,
it's beautiful. And I think it's so true. I think you can also see it in like the diaspora, the Jewry of the diaspora, how strong these Jewish communities are around the world. Like you have like the Jewish Community Center, the JCC, and all these different youth groups. And like at the end of the day, despite all the different sects and brands and like how you practice your religion, like you're all saying the tikva at these events, and you're all like screaming these blessings and saying all these things and coming together because we're Jewish, we're Israeli. Like it's the pride in that.
Yeah, we see weddings in Brazil, Jewish weddings, and they raise the Israeli flag. You know, we're all connected. So now I want to kind of get into when you came back to Israel after almost 30 years of being away, and you got into politics. If you can tell us a little bit about that.
Well, getting into politics is a huge word. Because I know you girls are studying government studies, and me in this same institution in the IDC where we are now, in Reichman University, at my time, it was still IDC. I also graduated MA in government studies here. I want to tell you, government studies and politics all resumes in one sentence: making an impact, influencing on the conditions of the reality we live in. That's the aim of any politician. Any politician aims to make actually the condition in which we live in better. There's no other purpose for politics. It's to influence, to correct, to improve the conditions in which the society lives in. All kind of condition. Economically speaking, security-wise, you're going to learn everything that has to to do with not with politics, but with statehood. Okay. So when you say that I entered into politics, I would like to explain that I'm an activist, still activist up until today. I joined two amazing human beings from the liberal right wing, Tzvika Hauser, which is a huge statesman, and Yoaz Endel, which is also a great patriot. Both of them had their own political party, Derech Eretz. I started as an activist, as a girl that read the Ani Ma'amin, the chart of their political party. I identified with the aspect of their vision of how life should look like. What are the conditions we have to make better to make the reality in which we live in safer, stronger, more robust, more up to date? I joined. Joining their political party meant so many little things, like participating in their the protest they organize, passing on their ideas, in social media, in Instagram, making other people to join, letting know other people, the friends of a friend of a friend. It's all from mouth to ear. Just like it was
especially in Israel.
and in all times, Rachel, even Jabotinsky, Ze'ev Jabotinsky, how did he spread the word? Bekikarot, in squares, all from mouth to ear. A friend brings a friend that brings another friend. That's how you enlarge the group that holds in the terms, that holds the same ideas and wants to diffuse them. So up until today, I'm an activist, meaning wanting to make this place a better place so that your children and your children will have a wonderful and best country to live in.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
And so how, October 7th happened. And from October 8th, if I'm not mistaken, you were already a volunteer at the Forum of the Hostage Families. Can you tell us a little bit, just explain in general, what is the Forum of the Hostage Families? And then we'll get into the amazing job you've been doing.
Thank you, my daughter. So the Forum of the Families of the Hostages is an NGO that was established, formed, became to be by the families themselves. On October 7th, Saturday, something like the afternoon, families started to understand that they are on a void or in a place that they just don't know where their dear ones are. They did not know to say if they were wounded, killed, or kidnapped.
Or missing.
Exactly. The definition of a missing person is that you just don't know what's his faith. You don't know if he was kidnapped, if he's thrown somewhere in the field, or if he was killed.
And there were so many missing people for so long.
Exactly. Right? And that's our original and still up until today the name, if you're going to look at our logo of the NGO, it's the form of the missing and hostages, because it's two different legal terms of a person. If you're missing or if you're kidnapped.
Of course, it's different qualifications.
Exactly. And today, when we're talking, there are no more missing people. We know the faith of each and every one. I mean, we still don't know. We still don't know who is alive and who is not alive. You know, today there are 98 hostages, in which we call hostage if you are halal, if you were killed, murdered, if you are not among us anymore, or if you're alive, you're still a hostage. Because a body that is kept in captivity by terrorist evils, cruel, is still kidnapped.
Of course,
so
Israel also has many soldiers, civilians that are still kidnapped, not from this war, which is a...
We have 4 hostages that have been there for
exactly
so many years.
One is over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
2, I think, are over 10 years. But what I want to tell you, on October 7th, families understood that they are in front of a reality that nobody ever prepares you to. You know, so many situations in life, you see movies, you read stories, you read book, your mother tells you what, the education you get at home, people prepare you to face some situation. What will happen when you go to the first day at school or first day in the army? Or nothing ever prepares you to deal with a situation that you have to face a nightmare in your mind, that you don't know where your dear one is, knowing that he is being held by evil. And then the family started, one contacted a prominent lawyer, the other contacted crisis manager Ronen Tour. They got together. Again, from mouth to ear, one brought the other, and a friend called a friend to join. That's how I got the telephone number from Amos Pikel, a very dear friend of mine, that called me and said, Meirav, come. We're gathering around the families. They are establishing this NGO. Tragic moment. And I ran, Rachel. I took my bag and I told him, just tell me when, where and when. And I ran. We were still, working under rockets and missiles. It was a walking distance from my apartment, the center.
The
It was in Berkovich 4, our headquarters, the first headquarters. It's not the actual one where we are now. And I used to walk under rockets.
And that first couple of weeks was such a feeling of unknown, of we don't know what's happening. We don't know if there's a deal on the table. We don't know if we're going to enter Gaza yet. How did that impact it, and how did that impact your role also?
So, okay. First, we didn't know anything. This NGO, the first thing they did is to form the list of the hostages. Who is missing? And what do we know? To determine that a certain a person is kidnapped, you have to have footage. You have to have a proof.
Wow.
A photo or witness or somebody that came back.
Okay, and confirmed.
And confirmed I saw him being taken, or a footage. And also, or I probably remind you girls, that the terrorist filmed and broadcasts on social media a live situation of kidnapping. So we had footage and we had material, we had actual photos of people being taken,
horrible,
kidnapped.
I remember even the testimonies of parents seeing videos. In the beginning it was all such a mess. I think it was the father of Noel Gamani reacting to seeing his daughter being taken into Gaza by terrorists on
Yes.
a motorcycle. So just seeing that human beings, that Israelis are going through this, and you feel so helpless. It gave me goosebumps just thinking about it
This
again.
is the pure definition of nightmare. Tell me, where else in the world you can imagine seeing your brother, your son, your grandchildren being kidnapped live by terrorists? I don't want to mention names, but they are now, while we are speaking here in Herzliya, there are two men, two fathers of the families, that their kidnapping was broadcast live by families that I see and talk 15 months all the time. And those two fathers, one of the father lost his oldest daughter, Mayan, 18-year-old. He saw her dead, lying on the floor in his kitchen while he was being kidnapped. Another that was with him on the same spot was taken from his wife and two daughters. One at the time was 2 years old and 2 months, the other 6 months. And those two fathers are kidnapped up until today. And why am I talking about that? Because those terrorists that kidnapped them filmed it live, and their families with whom I'm in contact the whole time, working for, saw it live. Where in the world, Raquel, would you imagine this situation? This is a nightmare. And excuse me, maybe it's not the right time to say, but all those people all over the world that tell me that they tell us all this is resistance and scream free Palestine, they just don't understand what terror is all about.
It's extremely sad.
Devastating, horrifying to listen to.
It's just the horrible reality that we deal with, and you deal with it every day when you're, in contact with these families. So how do you do it? I want you also to explain a bit to our listeners what it is that you actively do. You're also in charge of donations and delegations that
Yes.
come to visit, but you're also extremely close. You've become super close
Totally.
with the families of these hostages. Can you tell us a bit
Totally.
about
So,
that?
so the families always say they did not choose to be in the place where they are, but the volunteers that surround them chose to be there. So the families did not choose to gather all day long and dig inside of them to construct hope again and again. We, the volunteers, chose to do this. We are over 1,500 volunteers. We have ladies, 85 years old, that sell our merchandising all over Israel, volunteering 15 months, helping us.
But you specifically, you're every day in the forum. And I think, and from what I understand, a lot of volunteers have stopped. Eventually, they had to go back to, their lives, their jobs, their homes after X months, 3 months, 8 months. It's been 15 months, and you're still there every single day hugging these families. You're so in touch with them, and you need to have so much strength, I feel, to be able to also, process all this pain and be a part of it.
Yeah, in Hebrew you say lisfog. It's everything like to soak
Absorb.
it. Yeah, absorb it up.
I want to explain. First, let me explain a little bit to the listeners. What do we do, the volunteers? So, the volunteers are actually people that bring from their own professional attitude or their own comparative advantage or their own talent or their own know-how, they put it into the disposition of the fight, listen to the word I'm saying, fight to bring them back from captivity, to bring them back home. So it's semi-professional because it's people that worked or as doctors or as lawyers or as psychologists or as fundraisers or as social workers or as journalists or social media experts or creatives or PR experts. All those people, all those professions that I just quoted, all those people came the first week, the second week, the second month, the third month. Everybody came and put his know-how to the effort. We have a medical team, and the head of the medical team, Professor Chagai Levin, is one of the most prominent doctors in Israel. He was the one that established the medical report in the first week. He established a medical report on each and every hostage. He was the one that received the Red Cross in our headquarters in the first week.
Wow.
He was the one that was refused by the rep of the Red Cross to go out from our offices with the medications that Professor Chagai Levin and the families gathered. There are sick people there. There are people that have really things that they were born with a problem. So the families, together with the head of the team, Professor Chagai Levin, gathered a basket of medicines that the Red Cross refused to take. I saw it in my own eyes. I was not in the meeting. I was in the corridor outside. They didn't take. We have a legal team, a most prominent legal team. They are all lawyers and legal experts that came and put into disposition their know-how, their professional. We have me and so many other people in the fundraising team. I'm one of a huge team that received delegations from all over the world, Jewish and non-Jewish delegation, Rachel. You remember what you said about us being together, the Jews from all over. I felt and I saw in my eyes. It's not only togetherness, it's a merge. There is a total interdependency between the Jewish community outside Israel in the diaspora and the Israelis and the Israel state. Total interdependency. I saw hundreds of delegations. You name it. From United States, from Panama, from South America, from Europe. They came to give their support. They came to be here physically, to give a hug, as you mentioned before, a hug. And a hug makes a change, believe me. A hug. I saw them sitting. We received 20, 30, 70 people in one gathering. I saw them standing in line to hug the families that told their stories. Each one you choose other representatives of other families. Not everybody is available the whole time, and also there's no need. We started in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, with 243 hostages. Each time we used to call 2 or 3 representatives of 2 or 3 other different families of the hostages to receive those delegations. Of course, that if it was a delegation from Argentina, we called the Itzik Horn, that is from Argentina. If it's a delegation from United States, we made efforts to call to the Lifshitz or any other family that had a connection with the United States. But mainly, we saw all those people from all over the world coming to give strength, to show their support, and to give donations. Because we are totally apolitics and 100% philanthropics. We did not get one dime from the government. All our activities, all our rallies, all our protests, all our social media publications, and the financial aid, the direct financial aids to the family, are all being financed by donations. And also the merchandising that are being sold, that it's donation. We're not selling, we
Yeah,
are
of course you're not.
collecting donations. It's not a sales process.
You don't make a profit.
Zero profit. Zero profit. So actually, what I want you to remember is that each one came and brought to the table what is good at. We have journalists, PR experts, social media experts, publicity agencies that came and gave from their time, gave from their know-how, gave from their connections, their networks, their expertise, all in favor of bringing them back home. And I'm just one of them, and I appear to be your mom, so we're talking about it. But it's not, it's so obvious here in Israel, because in the middle of chaos,
Yeah.
total chaos, who held the situation? The Israel civil society.
It's amazing that you're here and that you're sharing these stories, and I think it ties so well. Like, we talk so much about rising to the occasion. Like, after the 7th, what did people do? How did their lives change? And the form of the hostage families is just such a prime example. Like, it's obviously the most horrifying and upsetting thing that it needed to be founded, but look at what the Israeli people did. Like, look at what these volunteers have managed. It's astounding. It's beautiful.
This is so important, and I want to tell you something. What is outstanding is the resilience of the Israeli society. But it's not by chance that the Israeli civil society is known all over the world for its talent to be resilient. You know why? Because resilience comes out from the need. If there is no need, and if there is no situation that you have to invent yourself all over again and again, what is resilience? Resilience is accumulating and producing strength when you feel you don't have anymore. What is resilience?
It's what you had to do since you were 5 years old, running to a shelter.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah, and how are you able to speak to parents whose children are, in Gaza, in captivity, in the worst conditions imaginable? What do you say to them? Do you have any interaction that you can remember? I know you talk to them every day, all day, but is there something that really stick out to you that you can give as an example?
Raquel, I cannot even count the number of times that I cried with them. With them meaning not sitting and having lunch with them and crying, but talking to delegations, important delegations, and just collapsing and crying. I cannot count the times that in a very serious situations with donors, I cried. I cannot count the times that I held myself from crying. I remember a very, very, very difficult hour when I went to one of the parents. His son is still held there. And I told him, this time, we're close to a deal. This time it will happen. That's it. We're getting there. And Raquel, at that day, he looked at me and he said, you told me this long ago. On the basis of what are you telling this to me now? Like so many times I told them, voila, now it will happen, now it will, because I was convinced that that's it. We are close to a deal. Only that time when I told them, we are close, and I really believe that time Raquel, he couldn't swallow it. He didn't believe in it or in me anymore. And at that time he looked at me, אמר לי, על סמך מה? On the basis of what are you saying this? You know, he's like he wanted to believe,
but he can't anymore.
But he wanted to understand. Why do you think that this time I should believe or I can believe? You know, we went through things together. We went, you know, I don't want to get into politics now with you. I think it's not fair. And we are now talking. Our talk is in such a decisive day.
Critical, exactly.
Critical moment.
Where once again we think we've never been closer to a deal.
Exactly, but you never know. It's so unfortunate. It's such a feeling of limbo.
It's crazy, and I want to tell you, the toughest thing is to see in your own eyes that there is a politician that ceased being moral, and this politician is leading a country in its biggest crisis since its establishment. It's not only forgetting to being an Israeli, it's also forgetting to be a Jew.
And a human, some may say.
And human. Why? Because I have reasons not to believe, to reasons. I have reasons to think that the considerations up until today of reaching a deal and bringing them back home to their families, the considerations were of its own political survival and not of their life survival. I'm not talking in the name of anybody. This is a pure result of me reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
And when that father came to me and said, on the basis of what should I believe or think that we are towards the end, that I'm going to see my son, I didn't know what to say. And I remember another day when another mom sat next to me in the auditorium. Also, we received a delegation from outside Israel coming to support, giving from their donations, giving from their networks. Mm-hmm. All of them came back, went back to the United States and phoned and talked to senators, the Jewish lobby. Strong Jewish lobby, so important. She put her head on my shoulder and she said, "En li koach, en li yoter koach. I have no more strength." You know what I did? Immediately, I don't know where from I had this attitude, because I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a fundraiser because I know to explain the situation as is. I'm transparent. I took her hand and I told her, nada disso, rien de ça, shum davar.
Now in English.
I'm sitting here staring at her.
I said, nothing of that sort. You have no right. You have no right. Your son has strength to survive. You have no right to break now. Not now. Immediately you saw her, you know, strengthening up, you know, moving her head, taking it from my shoulder and sitting straight like, okay. So this is something, you know, nobody trains you to do those things. It's in you. It's in you.
It's everything you've been through in life that has built you to be able to be strong enough to spend 15 months having moments like those. And do you have any? I mean, we did have a hostage deal in November of 2023. Are there any positive moments that you can remember? Is there anything that, you know,
Inspiring, some
So
kind
many, so many, so many. I have first Ophir Engel. Ophir Engel, he was 17 and a half. He was under 18. That's why he was released after 54 days, I think. I will never forget when I saw him in the headquarters. Actually, his father took him from the hospital, and before reaching home, you know, you have to stay 48 hours under a watch in the hospital. Before reaching home, his father, Yoav, told me that when they entered the car, Ophir told him, "Come on, Dad, what did you do? How did you fight? What did you do for us when you were there?" And his father was shocked. Like, how do you start to explain to your son what you have been doing all the time? So you know what he did? He made a U-turn and he said, "We're not going home. I'll take you to the headquarters of the firm. I want to show you something so you understand what we did." And then he came to the headquarters, and then me sitting there on the couch, because there was this place where the family sits together. It's full with offices. We have like 3 floors in a huge building that belongs to Checkpoint. It's a huge high-tech company, Israeli high-tech company that actually lended to us free of charge, talking about being a volunteer. Look what they gave.
Yeah.
Look at the donation. I'm so proud of this Checkpoint. And Gil Schwade, the head of the company. And suddenly, I see Ophir Engel that I just knew from the posters. I see him in front of me. And Raquel, I see him holding a transparent plastic bag, blue bag, full with his own posters that he just took.
Wow.
He entered, you know, we have a storage room. He went and he took all his own posters. The first time I ever saw Phil Engel, tall, handsome, with his posters.
his own posters.
So this I remember. And then another good thing I remember is Andrei Koslov.
He was in captivity for
Yeah.
a very long time.
Very long time. Up until today, we're friends, like friends. And I remember also Raquel and Rachel. The first day he came to the headquarters, also, it was 2 days after he was rescued. He came with his girlfriend at that time. I saw him. It was Friday lunchtime. There was hardly people in the headquarters. I was there. I had a meeting there. She whispered in his ear who I was. I went towards him as if I was hypnotized.
Hypnotized.
While she told him who I was, because she knew me. We received groups and delegations together with her. Her advocating for the release at the time that he was captive, okay? Together with me. She knew me, I knew her.
You supported her throughout this whole time.
Absolutely. And we sort of received people together doing advocacy for their release. He understood who I was for whatever she whispered in his ear. And then him and I fell into each other's arm. We hugged. I started crying. I hugged him so strong. And he whispered in my own ear, "I love you, and I don't even know you."
Wow. That
There's not
describes.
even words
yeah,
to.
there's no words. That describes why we have you here today, and it's not because you're my mother. It's beautiful to see the Israeli spirit that you have and you carry ever since I was born. I remember, this, even living in Brazil, you passing on what is it to be an Israeli and this resilience and Zionist values. And I feel like everything you've been through in life and being in Geneva and then Brazil and everything that you did prepared you to be one of the lasting, volunteers that is still there and is still fighting for their return. And I know how close you are with every single hostage family member, and that is why you are such a hero, and that is why, we're so proud of you, and thank you for everything that you will continue doing for the families and to actually bring them home. And we haven't even the podcast is just too short for us to be able to do everything, but she went with the hostage families to the Gaza border and screamed everything that you've done. You went to delegations all over Europe with them.
My love, but let me tell you something. We are not heroes. We are human beings. Please, I want to tell you, all those NGOs that became to be since October 7th, all this mobilization of Israelis, believe me, we're not heroes. We're just being Jews. We're just being Israelis. We're just being Zionists. Because this country and these people is unique in the sense that we are faithful to justice. We have values. We cherish values. What is the difference between being moral and being unmoral? What is the difference between doing just and fighting for justice? What is the difference between not being silenced in front of evil? That's being a Jew. That's being human. That's being on the right side of the moon. We're not heroes, not at all. We are being human beings. We cannot stay silent in front of injustice. And all we want to do is to contribute to the correction and striving for justice. We cannot stay still in front of evil. Mm-hmm. It's not being a hero. It's being a human being. I don't want to be not romantic here and tell you that I also saw bad people. I also saw people that think about themselves before. But I also saw people that put justice and moral before their own personal interests. And I wish that people that listen to our talk here, and both of you, when you're going to find yourself in a situation in life where you have to decide to give from yourself for a higher purpose, not for the sake of fame, or for nobody will ever know, nobody will ever tell. It's going to be unseen forever. But you go to sleep so much better. And somehow in your DNA, it is
passed on.
Exactly.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, we don't have a lot of time, but we do want to ask the last question that we always ask every guest, which is if there's anything you could say to people that are outside of Israel right now, share a truth about what Israel actually is and what the people of Israel actually are. If there's any message, what is it that you would send?
So, if Jews that are still not Israelis are listening to this talk, I wish that one day you're going to make Aliyah. We talked here about Zionism. Zionism is the project of Jews living together around and surrounding Zion, Jerusalem. I wish that all the Jews, wherever they are, will come and make their home here in Israel. Plant trees, give birth to their children, give from their talent to our flag. Please come, visit and stay. Please, make Aliyah.
You're such an incredible woman.
Amazing.
Yeah, you're so amazing. Thank you so, so much. I don't even have words. I agree with everything you said. I think we're all like testaments of the Aliyah also. So it's very beautiful to
Both
hear
of
that.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Both Rachels, both of you are testaments of Aliyah. And this is the greatest value of all. If you see the Jewish Agency, the chart of the Jewish Agency, Aliyah והתיישבות. Aliyah, immigration and settlements in Israel.
It is important to note, however, that when we talk about Zionism nowadays, it has a very negative connotation around the world. People are scared of using the word Zionist. It does not come at the expense of the Palestinian people. It does not come, it doesn't mean a state for the Jews and only for the Jews and colonization and murder and ethnic cleansing like so many people think it does. Zionism is just a word for the ability of Jews to self-assert in the land of Israel. And it doesn't come at the expense of our neighbors and anyone else and being able to live together. So I think that's really important. And thank you. Thank you for being here today and for the amazing talk.
So much. Thank you so much for listening to the Beyond the Uniform podcast on Audioversity. I'm Rachel Iskandri.
And I'm Rachel Safdie, and we'll see you next time with another untold story.